The morning sun cast long shadows across the wheat fields of Haven Colony as Park Jinwoo wiped sweat from his forehead. 300 years had passed since humans first settled on this distant world, and life had become wonderfully ordinary. Jinwoo's hands were stained with rich alien soil as he checked the moisture levels in his crops. The purple-tinged wheat swayed gently in the breeze, ready for harvest in just a few more weeks. His daughter Sujin worked at the communications center on the far side of the settlement. Every morning at exactly 9 o'clock, she sent the same message to Earth through the quantum relay, Haven Colony reporting. Population 12,400. Crop yields normal. Weather stable. All systems green. It was a routine she had followed for 5 years, just like her mother before her, and her grandmother before that. The message traveled faster than light across the galaxy, reaching Earth in mere seconds. But Sujin never wondered why Earth needed daily reports from a simple farming world. She assumed it was just bureaucracy, the kind of paperwork that governments love to collect. Across the galaxy, dozens of other human colonies sent similar messages. New Eden Colony reported on their research into alien plant diseases. Harmony Station updated Earth about their mining operations. Garden World shared data about their atmospheric processes. All peaceful activities. All perfectly normal. The other species in the galaxy saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. The Galactic Trade Federation had classified humanity as a Category 7 species, peaceful farmers and researchers who posed no threat to anyone. Their official reports described humans as withdrawn, possibly even declining in power. Human ships carried grain and manufactured goods, never weapons. Human diplomats talked about trade deals and cultural exchanges, never military matters. Ambassador Chen Duhyun often smiled when he read these reports during his meetings on the Federation capital world. He had served as humanity's representative for 20 years, carefully maintaining the image of humans as harmless neighbors. When other species asked about Earth's defenses, he would shrug and mention a few patrol ships and some old defensive satellites. What Chen never mentioned was his real job. Every night, he sent encrypted reports back to Earth about military movements, political tensions, and potential threats throughout the galaxy. He was not just a diplomat. He was humanity's eyes and ears among the stars. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains on Earth, Admiral Kim Tae-ho walked through corridors that most humans had forgotten existed. The Dragon's Den stretched for hundreds of kilometers underground, carved from solid rock over the course of 2 centuries. Massive screens lined the walls, displaying the locations of every human colony, every ship, every citizen scattered across the galaxy. Tae-ho had spent 30 years in these tunnels, watching and waiting. His hair had turned gray while monitoring threats that never materialized. His hands had grown weathered while maintaining weapons that were never fired. But he understood his duty. Humanity's children lived peacefully among the stars because people like him stood ready in the shadows. The screens showed green lights today. Every colony had reported in on schedule. Every citizen was safe. Every day that passed without incident was a victory in Tae-ho's mind. Behind blast doors that weighed 10,000 tons each, massive ships waited in underground docks. The vessels were larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, powered by technologies that most species would consider impossible. Weapons that could crack planets. Shields that could withstand the heart of a star. Engines that folded space itself to achieve impossible speeds. But the ships remained silent and dark. Humanity had built them not for conquest, but for protection. Not to attack, but to ensure that no one would ever dare attack human colonies. The galaxy saw humans as peaceful because humans chose to appear peaceful. Every farmer like Jinwoo was a volunteer who genuinely wanted a simple life. Every researcher on the Rim colonies truly cared about their work. But they also served another purpose. They were humanity's early warning system. If the daily reports ever stopped coming, if any human colony ever went silent, then the sleeping giants beneath Earth would awaken. The dragons would emerge from their lairs, and the galaxy would learn why humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Lieutenant Park Minute-jun monitored the communications from his station deep in the Dragon's Den. Today, like every day for the past 8 years, all reports arrived on schedule. Haven Colony at 9 a.m. New Eden at 9:15. Harmony Station at 9:30. One by one, humanity's children called home to say they were safe. Minute-jun often wondered what would happen if one of those calls failed to come. His training had prepared him for that possibility, but 300 years of peace made it seem impossible. Surely no species would be foolish enough to attack defenseless human colonies. As the sun set on Earth, Admiral Tae-ho completed his daily inspection of the sleeping fleet. Tomorrow would bring another day of watching and waiting. Another day of hoping that humanity's greatest weapons would remain forever unused. In his private quarters, Taiho kept a photo of his great-granddaughter on Haven Colony. Little Park So-young was only 6 years old, more interested in chasing butterflies than understanding the complex web of protection that kept her safe. That was exactly how Taiho wanted it. The dragons slept peacefully, dreaming of a galaxy where such protection would never be needed. High Warlord Zethkara studied the glowing map of human space from his command throne aboard the massive battleship Death's Embrace. The reptilian commander's yellow eyes gleamed as he examined 4 to 7 human worlds scattered across 3 sectors. His intelligence officers had spent months gathering data, and their conclusion was unanimous: humanity was weak. "Look at these pathetic defenses," Zethkara hissed to his war council. His forked tongue flicked out as he pointed at the holographic display. "A few orbital platforms here, some patrol boats there. No battle fleets, no fortress worlds, no military stations. They have forgotten how to fight." General Vexmore, his chief tactical advisor, nodded in agreement. "Our spies report that humans spend their time growing crops and conducting scientific research. They have not fought a real war in over 3 centuries. They are soft, weak, ready for conquest." The Dominion had been expanding for 50 years, swallowing smaller civilizations and adding their worlds to the empire. But human space offered something special: rich farming worlds that could feed the Dominion's growing population, plus strategic locations for future military bases. "We will make an example of them," Zethkara declared. "Strike hard, strike fast. Show the galaxy what happens to species that leave themselves defenseless. Perhaps other weak civilizations will surrender without a fight when they see what we do to the humans." The attack fleet assembled in secret over several weeks. 200 Dominion warships, each one bristling with weapons and carrying thousands of soldiers. It was massive overkill for attacking farming colonies, but Zethkara wanted to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. On Haven Colony, Park Jinwoo woke early to check his crops. The purple wheat was almost ready for harvest, and he wanted to make sure the moisture levels were perfect. His grandson, 8-year-old Park Minute-ho, followed him into the fields, chattering excitedly about a school project on alien botany. "Grandfather, why do our plants grow differently here than on Earth?" the boy asked. Jinwoo smiled as he knelt to examine a wheat stalk. "Different soil, different sun, different air. But life finds a way to adapt. That is what makes us human. We learn to thrive anywhere." Neither of them noticed the small flashes of light in the morning sky as Dominion ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. In the communications center, Sujin was preparing to send the daily report to Earth when her equipment suddenly went crazy. Massive energy signatures appeared on her sensors, far larger than anything she had ever seen. Her hands shook as she tried to make sense of the readings. "This cannot be right," she whispered. "These ships are huge." The attack came without warning. The first plasma bombardment struck the colony spaceport, vaporizing the landing pads and control towers in seconds. The second wave targeted the orbital platforms, turning humanity's defensive satellites into expanding clouds of debris. Jinwoo grabbed his grandson and ran toward the emergency shelters as explosions lit up the sky. All around him, colonists were screaming and fleeing as their peaceful world became a battlefield. The research station where Sujin worked vanished in a ball of white-hot plasma. Sujin had only seconds before the communications array was destroyed. Her fingers flew over the controls as she sent one final message to Earth: "Emergency Protocol 7 activated. Haven Colony under attack. Unknown hostile fleet. The harvest is lost. The children are coming home." The message reached Earth in seconds, arriving at quantum communication stations that immediately forwarded it to the deepest levels of the Dragon's Den. Automated systems that had waited 300 years for this moment suddenly came alive. Deep beneath the Himalayas, alarms began sounding for the first time in centuries. Ancient blast doors, each weighing 10,000 tons, started their slow opening sequence. Warning lights painted empty corridors red as hibernating systems activated throughout the massive underground complex. Admiral Kim Tae-ho felt the vibration through the floor of his command center as engines the size of city blocks began their startup procedures. Around him, officers who had trained their entire lives for this moment took positions at control stations that had never been used in combat. "All stations report," Tae-ho ordered, his voice calm despite the magnitude of what was happening. "Dragon Fleet 1 reporting ready status," came the first reply. "Dragon Fleet 2 systems online. Fleet 3 standing by." One by one, the reports came in as humanity's hidden armada awakened from its long sleep. The Dominion continued their assault across human space. New Eden Colony, home to 30,000 researchers and their families, was reduced to radioactive ash in under an hour. Harmony Station's 15,000 miners were loaded into slave ships after a brief, hopeless resistance. 3 worlds died in the first day. High Warlord Zethkara broadcast the attacks across galactic networks, wanting every species to witness Dominion power. "Let this be a lesson," he declared. "This is the fate of all who leave themselves defenseless. The age of human weakness is over. The age of Dominion strength begins now." But deep in the Dragon's Den, Admiral Taiho was sending very different messages through quantum channels that reached across the Sol system. "All Dragon fleets, this is Den Command." His voice echoed through communication networks the galaxy didn't know existed. "The children are in danger. Our people are dying. 300 years of peace end today." He paused, looking at the tactical displays showing massive ships emerging from hidden docks throughout the solar system. "The dragons wake now." Fleet Admiral Lee Minute-Ho stood perfectly still as the massive blast doors finished opening with a deep rumble that shook the entire underground facility. Before him stretched the hidden dock that housed the Bikdu Mountain, humanity's largest warship. For 3 centuries, the vessel had waited in darkness. Now emergency lighting illuminated its enormous hull as automated systems brought the giant ship to life. The Bikdu Mountain was 12 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. Its black hull absorbed light, making it nearly invisible against the void of space. Weapons ports lined its sides like the teeth of some ancient beast. The ship's main engines alone were larger than most alien battleships. Admiral on deck, called Commander Choi Minutsu as Minute-Ho stepped onto the bridge for the first time. The command center was vast, with hundreds of control stations arranged in perfect rows. Officers who had trained for decades in simulations now took their positions at consoles that had never been used in actual combat. "Ship status report," Minute-Ho ordered as he settled into the captain's chair. "All systems coming online, sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Park Ji-hoon from the engineering station. "Main engines at 20% and climbing. Weapons systems charging. Shield generators activating. Estimated time to full readiness, 40 minutes. Minute-Ho nodded and activated his communication system. "Dragon Fleet Command, this is Admiral Lee Minute-Ho aboard the Bikdu Mountain. Request status of all fleets." The responses came quickly from across the solar system. Hidden bases on Mars, Europa, Titan, and a dozen other locations reported their ships emerging from camouflage docks. What the galaxy had thought were research stations and mining facilities revealed their true purpose as massive military installations. "Dragon Fleet 2 ready for deployment," reported Admiral Park Soo-jin from her command ship near Mars. 48 vessels ranging from destroyer class to battleship class. "Dragon Fleet 3 standing by at Europa base," came another voice. 36 ships fully operational. One by one, the reports continued. 7 active fleets with over 2,000 ships total, all awakening from their long sleep. But this was just the beginning. What about the reserve fleets? Minute-Ho asked his communications officer. "Still in activation phase, sir. Full mobilization projected in 72 hours. Total estimated strength when complete, 15,000 vessels." Throughout human space, monitoring stations belonging to other species detected massive energy signatures appearing in the Sol system. The Galactic Trade Federation's automated sensors registered ships of impossible size emerging from locations that official records showed as uninhabited asteroids or research facilities. On the Federation capital world, Ambassador Chen Du-hyun maintained his calm expression as emergency meetings were called to discuss the strange readings from human space. Other diplomats demanded explanations for the massive ships their sensors were detecting. "I am sure there is some mistake," Chen said with practiced confusion. "Perhaps your equipment is malfunctioning. Earth has only a few patrol ships for system defense." But privately, Chen smiled as he sent encrypted messages to his real commanders. After 20 years of pretending to be a harmless diplomat, he was finally free to reveal his true role as humanity's intelligence chief. High Warlord Zethkara received urgent reports from his scouts at the edge of human space. "Sir, we are detecting energy signatures that exceed our understanding. Ships measuring over 10 kilometers in length. Power outputs that should be impossible." "Impossible," Zethkara snarled. "Humans are weak farmers. They have no military technology." "Sir, if these readings are accurate, a single human ship could destroy our entire attack fleet." Zethkara struck the reporting officer with his clawed hand. "Do not speak such foolishness. Continue the attacks. Show me these phantom ships when they arrive." But across the galaxy, other species were taking the readings more seriously. The Kethnari Defense Union immediately recalled all ships from areas near human space. The peaceful Veltar Confederation began emergency evacuations of their border worlds. They remembered older stories, whispered legends about why humans had suddenly appeared among the stars 3 centuries ago, established colonies, and then seemed to disappear into quiet isolation. Admiral Kim Taiho walked through the command center of the Dragon's Den, watching as displays showed the positions of awakening fleets throughout the solar system. Massive ships that had never seen starlight were emerging from underground docks and hidden bases. Technologies that humanity had spent 3 centuries perfecting were finally being revealed. "Sir," called Lieutenant Yoon Dae-hee from the intelligence station. "We have confirmation that 3 colonies have been completely destroyed. Haven Colony, New Eden, and Harmony Station. Estimated total casualties, 48,000 civilians." Taiho's jaw tightened. Those were not just numbers on a screen. Those were families, children, grandparents. People who had chosen peaceful lives among the stars, trusting that Earth would protect them if danger ever came. "Open a channel to all Dragonfleet commanders," he ordered. When the quantum link was established, Taiho's voice carried to every ship emerging from humanity's hidden bases. "Today we end 300 years of pretending to be harmless. Our children are dead. Our colonies burn. Someone will answer for these crimes." Admiral Lee Minute-ho felt his ship shudder as the massive engines reached full power. Around him, his crew worked with deadly efficiency, their movements precise after decades of training for this moment. The Baekdu Mountain and its escort fleet were ready for combat. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," Commander Choi announced. Minute-ho stared at the tactical display showing Dominion space. "Set course for their border systems. Maximum speed." The first Dragon fleet translated out of normal space in perfect formation, leaving behind a solar system that no longer bothered to hide its true nature. The dragons were awake, and they were very, very angry. The Dominion fortress at Keth Prime had protected the border for over 2,000 years. Its massive weapons could destroy entire fleets, and its shields had never been broken by enemy fire. When sensors detected the approaching human ships, the fortress commander felt confident about the coming battle. Commander Zafek studied the tactical display with growing confusion. "These readings cannot be correct. Show me ships of normal size, not these impossible measurements." "Sir, the lead vessel measures 12 kilometers in length. Our computers estimate its mass at over 50 million tons. We have never seen anything like it." Zafek laughed harshly. "Humans build cargo ships, not warships. Your sensors are broken. Prepare for battle against whatever small fleet they actually sent." The Baekdu Mountain dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Keth Prime system, followed by 200 escort vessels. Admiral Lee Minute-ho stood calmly on his bridge as his crew analyzed the enemy fortress ahead. "Target analysis complete, sir," reported Commander Choi Minitsu. "Fortress Keth Prime. Heavy shields, plasma cannon batteries, missile launchers. Estimated crew of 3 million. Standard Dominion design from about 50 years ago. Defensive capabilities. Their shields might stop conventional weapons, sir. But not ours." Minute-ho nodded slowly. His ship carried weapons that most species would consider impossible, devices that manipulated gravity itself, turned matter into pure energy, or existed partially outside normal space. Humanity had spent 3 centuries developing these technologies in secret. "Open a channel to the fortress," Minute-ho ordered. Commander Zafek's image appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features twisted in arrogance. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed. The Dominion claims this system." "I am Fleet Admiral Lee Minute-ho of the Terran Defense Force," came the calm reply. "You have murdered 48,000 human civilians. This is your only chance to surrender before we demonstrate why humanity spent 300 years preparing for war." Zafek's laughter echoed across the communication channel. "One ship against our mighty fortress? You humans truly are insane." Minute-ho's expression did not change. "You had your chance. All ships, prepare for combat. Primary target is the fortress core. Secondary targets are the weapon platforms." The battle began when Fortress Keth Prime opened fire with every weapon at maximum power. Plasma beams and missile swarms streaked toward the human fleet, enough firepower to destroy 100 normal ships. The weapons struck the Baekdu Mountain's shields and simply vanished. The energy was absorbed, redirected, and stored for later use. Not a single human ship was damaged. "Impossible," Zafek whispered as he watched his most powerful weapons accomplish nothing. "Target locked, sir," reported Lieutenant Song Haijin from the weapons console. Gravitational lance ready to fire. Minute-Ho looked at the fortress one last time. 3 million Dominion soldiers and technicians lived inside that structure. They had chosen to serve a government that murdered innocent farmers. Fire. The gravitational lance was invisible to normal senses, but its effects were immediate and terrible. The weapon created a tiny black hole at the exact center of Fortress Keth Prime. For 3 seconds, the artificial singularity consumed everything within a 2-kilometer radius before evaporating back into space. The mighty fortress, which had protected the Dominion border for 2 millennia, simply ceased to exist. The shockwave from its destruction cracked both of Keth Prime's moons and triggered massive earthquakes across the planet's surface. The engagement lasted 11 minutes total. High Warlord Zethkara watched the tactical display from his command ship 3 star systems away. His most powerful fortress had been erased from existence by a single shot from one human vessel. The implications were terrifying. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission on all frequencies," his communications officer reported with a trembling voice. Admiral Minute-Ho's face appeared on every screen throughout Dominion space. His expression was cold as the void between stars. "I am Fleet Admiral Lee Minute-Ho of the Terran Defense Force. You murdered 48,000 human civilians who wanted nothing more than to live in peace. In return, we are going to teach the galaxy why humanity spent 3 centuries preparing for war instead of fighting it." The image paused, and Minute-Ho's eyes seemed to look directly at Zethkara through the screen. "Surrender now and face trial for your crimes. Continue fighting, and learn what dragons do to those who harm their children." Zethkara snarled and cut the transmission. "We are the Dominion. We do not surrender to anyone, especially not to weak humans." But across Dominion space, his commanders were beginning to doubt. Reports flooded in of impossible human technologies. Ships that could phase through solid matter. Weapons that manipulated gravity to crush fleets like insects. Soldiers in powered armor who moved faster than reptilian reflexes could track. At the Vextar system, Dragon Fleet 3 demonstrated their phasing technology. Admiral Park Ji-hoon's ships passed through the system's asteroid belt as if it did not exist, emerging inside the Dominion defensive perimeter to attack from impossible angles. The battle was over before the defenders understood what had happened. At Mordun, Fleet Admiral Kim So-young showcased humanity's gravity weapons. Her flagship created localized gravitational fields that compressed entire enemy squadrons into balls of crushed metal. The surviving Dominion ships fled in panic, broadcasting warnings about human weapons that violated the laws of physics. Each battle was a demonstration. Each victory revealed new aspects of humanity's hidden technology. The galaxy watched in fascinated horror as humans proved that 3 centuries of apparent weakness had been carefully planned deception. Within 6 months, the reptilian Dominion had lost 70% of its territory. The survivors sent desperate surrender offers, all of which Admiral Minute-Ho ignored. The dragons had awakened, and their wrath was terrible to behold. High Warlord Zethkara stood alone in his private chamber aboard his flagship, staring at the holographic display that showed what remained of his empire. 6 months ago, the reptilian Dominion had controlled over 400 star systems. Now only 12 systems remained under his command, and human fleets surrounded even those. His scales had lost their proud golden color, now appearing dull and gray. His once mighty voice had become a whisper. The reports from his remaining commanders painted the same picture everywhere: total defeat. Human ships appeared without warning, destroyed everything in their path, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. "My lord," General Vexmore entered the chamber with his head bowed low. "The humans are broadcasting another message to all our remaining worlds. They demand our complete surrender within 24 hours. Zethkara closed his yellow eyes in defeat. "How many civilians have we lost?" "Over 2 billion, my lord. Their weapons leave nothing behind. Entire worlds turn to dust." The great warlord who had conquered dozens of species now faced a choice that would end his empire forever. He could continue fighting and watch his people die, or he could surrender and face whatever justice the humans demanded. "Open a channel to all Dominion worlds," he said quietly. "It is time." Across the galaxy, every communication network received the same transmission. High Warlord Zethkara appeared on billions of screens, his proud bearing finally broken. "The reptilian Dominion surrenders unconditionally to the Terran Defense Force. We beg for mercy." Fleet Admiral Lee Minute-Ho received the surrender message aboard the Baekdu Mountain as his fleet maintained position around the last Dominion stronghold. His officers waited for orders to complete their conquest, but Minute-Ho surprised them all. Open a channel to all dragon fleets, he ordered. Stand down from attack positions but maintain readiness. Then he broadcast his own message across galactic space. This is Fleet Admiral Lee Minute-Ho. We did not wake the dragons to conquer. We woke them to ensure this never happens again. On Earth, Admiral Kim Tai-ho walked through the Dragon's Den command center as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Other species were reacting with shock and fear to humanity's display of power. Some were recalling their fleets from anywhere near human space. Others were offering alliance treaties and trade agreements. Sir, Lieutenant Yoon Dae-hee called from her station. We are receiving over 300 diplomatic messages from various governments. They all want to discuss peace treaties. Tai-ho nodded grimly. Fear makes everyone want to be friends. Schedule meetings with their ambassadors, but make it clear we are not interested in conquest. Over the following months, humanity revealed the full scope of their capabilities to the galactic community. Hidden shipyards throughout the Sol system that could produce hundreds of vessels per day. Technologies that made faster-than-light travel look primitive by comparison. Most shocking of all, the revelation that humanity had been secretly protecting other species for centuries. Ambassador Chen Du-hyun finally dropped his mask of harmless confusion when he addressed the Galactic Trade Federation Council. For 300 years, we have monitored every conflict, every threat, every species that might harm innocent civilizations. We did not withdraw from galactic affairs, we became its hidden guardians. The records he presented stunned the assembled delegates. Human ships had secretly intervened in dozens of conflicts, preventing genocides and protecting weaker species from aggressive neighbors. Pirates who mysteriously vanished. Slave ships that disappeared without trace. Aggressive fleets that suffered sudden engine failures far from home. Every time you wondered why certain threats never materialized, Chen continued, it was because humanity was watching. We chose to protect rather than conquer. The peaceful Veltar Confederation's representative stood with tears in her large eyes. You saved our colony ships from the Korth raiders 30 years ago. We thought it was an accident that their fleet suffered engine problems. No accident, Chen replied simply. We could not allow innocents to be harmed. The Terran Protectorate was established not as an empire, but as a promise. Human colonies began rebuilding under the open protection of dragon fleets. Other species, having witnessed what happened to those who preyed on the innocent, suddenly found peaceful solutions to conflicts they had planned to fight. On the rebuilt Haven colony, Park Jin-woo once again walked through his wheat fields with his grandson. The boy pointed excitedly at the massive shape hanging in the sky above them. Grandfather, what is that big ship? Jin-woo looked up at the Baekdu mountain maintaining its protective station in orbit. That is a dragon, little one. It watches over us to make sure no one can hurt us again. Will it always be there? As long as there are children who need protection, the dragons will keep watch. Fleet Admiral Lee Minute-Ho stood on his bridge, observing the peaceful scene below through his ship's sensors. Commander Choi Minutsu approached with the day's reports. Sir, should we consider reducing our military presence now that peace has been restored? Minute-Ho shook his head slowly. The dragons are awake now. They will stay awake as long as there are innocents who need protection. Let the galaxy remember, we chose peace not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to prefer it. He turned to look at the stars beyond, where other human fleets maintained their eternal watch over both human and alien worlds. Touch our people again, he said quietly, and the galaxy will learn what happens when humanity stops choosing peace. Throughout space, the dragons kept their watch, and the galaxy slept more soundly knowing that some choose to be guardians rather than conquerors.